Alright, Shalom Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Alright, why is the book of Jeremiah so important to know? You know, we had the same mentality back then as we do now. That's for sure. Identical. We are an offshoot directly from the mentality that existed in the promised land during Jeremiah days as we are now. You would think maybe because we've been in captivity for a while that we would be different in a sense, and that we wouldn't, be the same because of slavery. We're the same identical people in the book of Jeremiah as we are now, and we are a direct offshoot of those Israelites from the book of Jeremiah, and I show this all the time, and I just like going over the book of Jeremiah history because it's our last act on the promised land for the 99%. Now, if Israelites can understand that the book of Jeremiah gonna be our last history for the 99%. It was shutdown time, and our covenant was broken, and it was basically over with. But we had a little chance because the Creator's promised to King David, but eventually that light went out too, and that was with the exiles that was taken to Babylon, that little 1%. And I explained how they had to be destroyed because it couldn't be two covenants, one broken and one not. And then if you look at the history of Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, these prophets' history right here, you'll see that the exiles couldn't make it anyway, impossible. And, some people would love for the exiles' history to extend infinitely. You know what I'm saying? That went all off into the Greek times and to the Roman times, all the way to 70 AD. You have a lot of blind, ignorant Israelites that really don't know the history and be using the Jewish community history, and they do have a history under the Israelite title. Israelites can't comprehend that, and they think everything dealing with the Israelite subject belongs to us. They don't understand that it's folks that had the Israelite heritage basically longer than us, so they gonna have a little more history than we have, and so forth. And that our history is basically confined to Tanakh history, and everything after that and outside of that, it don't belong to us. It don't belong to us because our history was chronicled by our prophets. After that, during Greek times and other times, you would think that the Israelites chronicled the history or had something to do with the skeptic and all that old stuff. No, the Ptolemies and all those folks who helped constructed a version of our heritage were not Israelites, and they didn't get Israelites to rewrite our history from Greek, from Hebrew into Greek and all that. That was done by the Babylonian scribes. The Amorites that's been in our heritage for a long time. But, a lot of Israelites mean they would not accept that the Tanakh is the only history that we have, and they want our history to be so vast and like the covenant was never broken until we was captured in Africa, and Israelites can't explain that. And then they think because her Edomite temple was destroyed and we went into Africa, and then that caused the transatlantic slave trade. Some Israelites believe that that we left in 70 AD and went across North Africa to Spain. Now I've seen a lot of Israelites post that foolishness, and that we went to Spain, and then that we come back into Africa, and then we was enslaved. All this false history, and they don't know nothing about the Sephardic and Sephardian groups that consists of Edomites that went across North Africa because an Edomite temple was destroyed in 70 A.D. The one that Herod built. Yes, and then that them folks with our heritage and title went to Spain and then went into Africa and got us and brought us to the Americas and so forth, but you got a lot of Israelites, man, they believe in the other ethnic groups' history that's been in control of our history for a long time, and they don't know how to make the separation, and they think that it's all one and one and the same, and then they think that the so-called Caucasian Jewish community come from some Khazars, from the Khazars, and then that's how they got in, and everybody up to the end. Me and Israelites be so far in left field with the understanding in history. That's why come Israelite Brotherhood need a school real bad so we can start, really getting this show on the road and get the Israelites start studying and then get the real understanding and so forth. See, Israelites don't know that if you study the Jewish history, and that's mostly what you're going to regurgitate, the Jewish history. But if you study Tanakh and then research around it and then keep your studies kind of like in that area, then you're going to be able to see us and understand what has happened. And that's why I go to the book of Jeremiah and how important it was because it was our last act on the promised land for the 99%. I mean, I'm talking about for the whole Israelite nation. I already proved over and over that it wasn't no 10 lost tribes. Matter of fact, reading a little bit of this history, one should get the understanding that it never was any 10 lost tribes. In that, our last our last stay on the promised land gonna be mostly confined to the tribe of Judah, being that we had lost the northern territories and so forth, where people had started to settle in vast numbers in the northern part, as stated in Second Chronicles chapter 17 verse 24, when the Syrians dropped off them old scribes and some other folks, they got lodged in our heritage and so forth. So everybody was starting to go towards lean towards Africa and so forth, or be close to the Africa door, because a lot of folks was coming from the east, coming to settle in our land, and especially, man, from up in them parts, man, the folks that was coming from the east and from these parts destroyed Assyria. Man, that was the most powerfulest nation during this time, and we had a strong interaction with them, and it doomed us too. But how did when those folks destroyed Assyria, then they come immediately for the next strongest pigmented ethnic group, men will be the Israelites, and that how all those nations, men around us, were people of not not a significant degree of pigmentation, and how they was mixed folks, the Semitic folks and all the other folks, and they was closing in on us. And then I also explained that how it was about Yah worship. The nations was slick tricking us out of Yah worship, and then towards our end, they had got so crafty that they pretended to be our friends, so we didn't call Yah against them, and then they acted like they was gonna collaborate with us in defending, our universal enemy will be the folks coming from Babylon and Scythia and all those other places. And then how did they all deceived us? They all deceived us and tricked us out the covenant, and we've been a messed up people ever since, and we've been trying to put it back together, and we putting it back together with true history. With true history. Now, this is what I wanted to read. Like I say, the book of Jeremiah is so important. Man, the book of Jeremiah is so important because it show our last act on the promised land for the 99%, and I'm gonna go into it, man. Man, it's really a vast book, and I can spend a whole 2 or 3 hours doing it, but I'm gonna try to just explain it in a quick sense to where it would motivate you Israelites men to be interested to go over it with the history that I'm showing in mind and so forth. You know, and man, the book of Jeremiah, it's kind of sad in a sense too, because you know it was our last act on the promised land, and prophet Jeremiah was around during King Josiah's days. Real important about King Josiah because he gonna be our last chance to stay on the promised land. You know, he our last chance to stay on the promised land, and after his death, man, it was downhill from there, and we couldn't recover. And then they really started putting a false gods and religions on us, the Egyptians and the other folks. Yes, man, after King Josiah was gone, man, they rushed in and threw the false gods on his sons and so forth. Man, I want to read, you know, some history and look, the prophet Jeremiah. This is important to know, is that his father was a high priest. Man, the high priest Halakah. Uh, uh, Look, you see this right here. Look, all right, it says the words of Jeremiah, the son of Halakah, the priest that was in Anath in the land of Benjamin. All right, and then look here. When you get to if you go over to Chronicles, Second Chronicles 34, Second Chronicles 34, and then you'll see this. Look, and when they come to Halakah the high priest, they delivered the money that was brought into the house of Yah, which the Levites that kept the door had gathered of the hand of Manasseh and Ephraim, and also the remainder of Israel and all of Judah and Benjamin. So it wasn't no lost tribes. And this is during King Josiah's time, and he come on the throne, I think 640 BCE. So, you know, and it wasn't too long after that when the Assyrian Empire get destroyed because they didn't come across the promised land. You know, they didn't trespass the promised land. All right. So did you see who's Jeremiah father is? Jeremiah father gonna be a high priest. Now that's straight. That the that that Jeremiah father was a high priest and so forth. Man, he gonna have a real good connection to the Most High and so forth. And I'm gonna show this too. And the things the prophet Jeremiah said come to pass immediately. It didn't start taking no long time to come to pass. And then look, during King Josiah time, we had found the book. We had found the law, meaning that the people was living without the law before then. You know what I'm saying? And you could tell that the people was kind of like living without the law for a while. Is that if you go to man, I'm gonna show you Israelites something. Now we know Manasseh gonna be King Josiah's granddaddy, and that Amon was King Josiah's father. Now Manasseh's father gonna be King Hezekiah. So it's kind of crazy how Manasseh fell off the wagon so fast. And then I'm gonna show you Israelites something, man. All this doomed us, and King Hezekiah's granddaddy wasn't right. Oh man, he was off. You know what I'm saying? He was off bad. You know what I'm saying? Now look, check this out. All right, go to Second Chronicles 33, and this is Manasseh's history. Look, Manasseh was 12 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem, but did that which was evil in the sight of the Elohim, like unto the abominations of the heathen, whom the Elohim had cast out before the children of Israel. For he built again the high places which Hezekiah his father had broken down, and he reared up altars for Balaam, and made groves, and worshiped all the host of heaven. Look, and worship all the host of heaven, and also built altars in the house of the Elohim, whereof the Elohim had said in Jerusalem, shall my name be forever. Look, and he built the altars, and look, and he built altars for all the host of heaven in the two courts of the house. So he was doing the horoscopes. He was doing the horoscopes, meaning what he was doing to the host of heaven. You know what I'm saying? He was doing the horoscopes. And then if you go to Ezekiel 8, look, check this out. This is years later after they killed King Josiah. Look what the folks doing. It's off. It is off. We're going to get it right. Alright. Let me see. Yeah, that zodiac stuff. Look. And it come to pass in the 6th year, in the first one, and the 5th day of the month, look, the Babylonians and then come in and then kidnap some of the folks. You know, then beheld the likeness of the appearance of the fire. All right, look here. All right. Then he said to me, the angel was taking Ezekiel around, telling him to look at some stuff. And then he said unto me, son of man, dig now in the wall. And when I dug in the wall, behold, a door. And he said unto me, go in, and behold, the wicked abomination that they do. So I went in and saw, and behold, every form of creeping things and abominable beasts, and all the idols of the house of Israel portrayed upon the wall round about. And there stood before them 70 men of the ancients of the house of Israel, and in the midst of them stood Jezaniah, the son of Sheba. But look, that gonna come from the horoscopes that Manasseh built, men before then, and then they were still doing it during the captivity. So during the first captivity, when the Babylonians and then came and stuff, and that's what the book of Ezekiel is about. It's the first time that they came and got us. It's supposed to be before the book of Jeremiah and so forth. You know, this is supposed to be a few years before the book of Jeremiah. And then you see what Manasseh had the horoscopes inside the temple. And then Ezekiel go crawling through the wall and looking in there like the angel told him. And they was doing that same stuff from Manasseh time. That's messed up. That's messed up. Even after King Josiah had cleaned the land up. You know, that's one of the reasons why the Egyptians and the Syrians will want King Josiah out the way, is so that they can put us on, you know, their religions. You know, the Babylonian, Canaanite, Egyptian religion was all similar in the horoscopes and all that, man. All that gonna come from ancient Babylon and so forth. Well, the folks was doing that in the temple, and Manasseh put that in there. That's gonna be King Josiah's granddaddy. All right. Now let's get into the book of Jeremiah. And I might read some from the Tanakh, and I'm gonna read some from the King James version. The Tanakh JPS version gonna be it, the correct way and so forth. But sometimes I, you know, go back and forth and stuff. But sometimes it's a difference. Sometimes it ain't. Look, the word of Jeremiah, son of Halakah, one of the priests in Anath in the territory of Benjamin. The word of the Elohim came to him in the days of Josiah, king of The word of the Elohim came to him in the days of King Josiah, son of Amon of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign, and throughout the days of Jehoiakim, son of Josiah of Judah, unto the end of the 11th year of Zedekiah, son of Josiah of Judah, when Jerusalem went into exile in the 5th month. You know, this will be our end because the 99% went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Them folks done played us. And then, let me show this also real quick, man, before I get into the book of Jeremiah, some of the conditions that was present. And then, look here, remember me saying that Assyria had the folks in. I think I just did a video explaining how Assyria had Scythians up in their nation and so forth, and then how that's what's gonna doom them. And then them same folks would come to our land and get us up out the covenant. See, this is what I want to show. Yeah, it was a lot going on, but it all boiled down to them trying to stop us from doing y'all worship when you break it all down. When you break it all down. Alright, let's see this right here. Alright, the Scythian kingdom. Alright, look here. Alright, look, you see this right here? Alright, this is Assyria's territory. And then that's the Scythians up there. And them are all the wild folks. Man, the real wild folks. And then you see how they would get lodged in Assyria. So that would make sense for the prophet Jonah to go there, you know, and they come through the waters that way and end up, you know, being in Nineveh and so forth to tell them, you know, to do right. That's because no folks was up there. And look at their map. Look at their map showing. Look, the Neo-Assyrian Empire. So look here. This the Scythian kingdom in the west. He's the ones that came and settled in our land. Look, you see, we right here. We ain't nowhere from them folks. We ain't nowhere from them folks. And man, we right here. You know what I'm saying? We right here. We ain't nowhere from them folks. Up here. And then they would come and destroy Assyria, and then come, you know, get us and chase us this way. See, we wouldn't go back these ways. We wouldn't go back this way because that's where all the enemies was coming from. That's why Israelites don't understand that 10 lost tribe stuff, thinking that we was taken to Assyria and then went somewhere else throughout the world. You would have had to get across these folks first, man, to go anywhere. And you wasn't getting past them. Impossible to get through their territory. Impossible to get through their territory. And especially in large numbers. Especially in large numbers thinking that you going somewhere. That's why that 10 lost tribe story is kind of crazy, and the Tanakh does not support it because it named, you know, the tribes after the so-called Assyrian captivity. And then I showed that the Assyrians would only need the 3 tribes, Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh, and they gonna be stationed throughout the northern kingdom because they was the fighters. So anytime some peoples get kidnapped, it's gonna be them. And then if they took it from all different parts of the tribes, they're gonna say, well, the tribes of Israel was taken, or such and such was taken off. But they, you know, really talking about Reuben, Gad, and Manasseh that would be stationed throughout the northern kingdom and so forth. And then just imagine they had to fight them folks. You know, go to Second Chronicles, First Chronicles. See, we got to explain our history where it makes sense. If we don't explain our history where it makes sense, then we're going to be forever relying on the other ethnic groups that's not going to explain Israelite history towards us. They're going to explain it towards them, the people that got control of our heritage. But look here, look. The sons this is First Chronicles 5:18. The sons of Reuben and the Gadites and the half tribe of Manasseh, are valiant men able to bear buckler and sword and to shoot with bow and skillful in war, were 440,703 that went out to war. Now look, and the Yah of Israel stirred up the spirit of Paul, king of Assyria, and the spirit of Talcanazer, king of Assyria, and he carried them away, even the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half tribe of Manasseh. You see, that's who he needed, the fighters. The fighters. That's who the Assyrians needed, the fighters to fight them. To fight them. You know, but the Syrians had did too much when they started, when they started robbing the northern kingdom and trying to rob Judah. You know, they got the big head. I guess the Israelites not being on the covenant like they supposed to in the northern kingdom will give the impression that our worship of Yah wasn't real. So the folks gonna try you. They gonna try you, especially when you ain't practicing your faith and holding on to it. I believe that's a part in Jeremiah where he making the comparisons to the other nations. Like, man, they ain't finna abandon their gods. They ain't finna do nothing wrong concerning their gods. But look at you, Israel. You abandoned the real deal. You know, that's in the book of Jeremiah where he's comparing, I think, the Elamites and the Rachel and some old folks. I think they didn't drink no wine and made a promise not to drink wine and didn't drink no wine. You know, and how we Israelites made promises to hold the covenant but didn't want to hold on to the covenant. You know, we'll take the easy route. You know, if somebody present a easier God to worship and then make it a party like, make it a party like as the Queen of Heaven was and that Ayah's whore stuff from Egypt, those were party religions. And they wanted us on the party religions. And then, that destroyed us. But the prophet Jeremiah gonna be there doing our last act. And he would call those very same folks that destroyed Assyria to come on, and get us up off the promised land. And like I said, this was after King Josiah was killed. And this would be another reason to get the Assyrian Empire doomed, is that they got their hands in the death of a prophecy king. So that would bring Assyria's destruction real fast, as did happen. Because look at this right here. I want to show this again. Look, you see this? Where the Assyrian Empire went off into Egypt. So that'd be the Neo-Assyrian Empire with us associated with it, because I just showed the Assyrians taking 3 tribes, and the Assyrians couldn't go past. They controlled the Syrians. They couldn't go past those folks. They just controlled them because they was close to them. But the Assyrian Empire, them folks didn't leave here and then go all over these parts to conquer and stuff. Them folks wasn't having it back in these parts over here. They wasn't having it, and all the robbery and kidnapping and all of those stuff was mostly just confined to these areas. That's why come them Israelites be crazy with that 10 lost tribe myth and lie, because you wasn't finna get past Ashkenazi and them other folks to be gone off into other parts of the world and so forth. So that being in the Americas during the Syrian times, or leaving and getting here some kind of way after, besides the transatlantic slave trade, is false history and to put you in a lost mindset when it comes to dealing with Israelite history. You won't be comprehend no truth if you believe in them lies that people created off our history. Over 99% of the Israelite community is boggled down in those lies, thinking that during the Syrian times that the Syrians carried off 10 tribes and then they disappeared past Ashkenazi up here. Some kind of way they got past the ring of fire. Some kind of way the Israelites say we got past the ring of fire. I don't know how they did it. The ring of fire from Ashkenazi wasn't no joke. How in the world Israelites gonna get during the Syrian times taken up there, and then you gonna get past them folks? They even got it in red. You ain't getting past them. So it never was in the 10 lost tribes. All right. Now, after the Assyrians gonna be had their hands in the death of King Josiah, because look here, when the Egyptians, when the Assyrians came and put the Satai kings on, that'd be the Mishwish tribes that we Israelites was associated with since Exodus, and put them on a throne and took the power from the Nubians. Then they had their hands in the death of King Josiah through the Egyptian army, and that would sure enough make Nineveh get on the destruction list. And you can see this right here, because if you go to I ain't trying to talk around it, man. It just all keep coming back, man, to this. If you go to Prophet Nahum history, man, it's gonna be just a few years, man, before the Assyrians come through into Egypt and took Egypt over, and then set their partners up. And look, see, the burden of Nineveh, the book of the sea. So this is dealing with the Assyrian Empire and how that they would be destroyed. And this was said, man, about a good 60 years before their destruction came. And it came just like how he said it, and by the folks that I said that we couldn't go across during the Syrian times to create the 10 lost tribes and so forth. We couldn't go across Ashkenazi territory under the name Scythian. So, King Josiah gonna be born during those conditions when the Egyptians and the Assyrians were connecting, and it was a prophecy too, and I could see how the Israelites would have a good golden time. The last golden time is if everybody up in this area who is kind of like pigmented in a sense and kind of like related in a sense, and they all kicking it in together, and they can fight and withstand the folks that's coming down even for just a little while. That would be a golden age right there for them. And then if you go to let me see, that'd be Isaiah. You can kind of like see it. I done read this before in the other prophets. All right, go to Isaiah. Man, it'll be 19. Look, and this was a few years, man, before the Assyrians took Egypt over. All this is the conditions that King Josiah had to face when he was born. Look, in that day shall Israel be the third. Let me see. In that day shall Israel. Let me see. In that day shall there be a highway out of Egypt to Assyria, and the Assyrians shall come into Egypt, and the Egyptians into Assyria, and the Egyptians shall serve with the Assyrians. So Prophet Isaiah is a show enough prophet. If he said this just before it happened, and his history goes from 739 to 701 BCE, this is like almost 40 years before the Assyrians actually came in and did what they said. So you can see this prophecy come to pass in history real easy. Real easy, because see, that's why I say it's important to know dates and timeline and so forth, because then you can start seeing them prophecies come to pass. See, look, in that day shall there, let me see, in that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, and with the Assyrians even a blessing in the land. See, that knocks that 10 lost tribe, 10 lost tribe stuff out already, because the Assyrians empire went out in 612 BCE. The Israelites were still around, during King Hezekiah's time and King Josiah's time. And both of them cleaned the kingdom up. Look. So look, in that day shall Israel be the third with Egypt, and with Assyria even a blessing in the midst of the land. Alright, that's gonna be this time right here. During this time right here. And King Josiah would be born during these times, and prophet Jeremiah would be the main prophet during this time. And our conditions wasn't too good if you look at the book of Jeremiah, because you see that, man, we was to look at this right here. Read 5, Jeremiah 5. It's awful. I'm gonna read it from the Tanakh too. All right, Jeremiah 5. Look, then it says, roam the streets of Jerusalem, search in squares, look about and take note. You will not find a man. There is none who acts justly, who seeks integrity, that I should pardon her. Even when they say, as the Elohim lives, they are sure to be swearing falsely. O Elohim, your eyes look for integrity. You have struck them, but they sense no pain. You have consumed them, but they would accept no discipline. You know, that's the way that the people was in the book of Jeremiah during the satire times. And the satire times is gonna be when the Assyrians set up the kings of Egypt. They done whooped the Nubians, and ran them away, and then give all the power to the Mishwish tribes that control Lower Egypt. Man, I think I got a little of their history up too. Let me see. Look. All right. All right. It says the Setite period of Egypt, the 26th dynasty, when the Syrians withdrew from their final invasion in 646 BCE. Egypt was left in the hands of the Setite kings, though it was actually only in 656 that the Setite ruler Ptolemy was able to reassert control over the southern area of the country dominated by Thebes. You know what I'm saying? They took the power from the new. For the next 130 years, Egypt enjoyed the benefits of rule by a single strong family. The 26th dynasty, elevated to power by the invading Assyrian dynasty. Dynasty 26 faced a world in which Egypt was no longer concerned with its role in international politics, but was in sheer survival as a nation. The long and rich tradition, Egypt was probably at its best time, but because it had the Israelites' food, we had access to gold and all kind of stuff. Man, we had all kind of stuff coming to our land. So it was like a golden era for all the false worshipers and the folks that was trying to get us up off the company. Under the Setite rule, Egypt grew to a vessel of Assyria, to an independent ally. There were even echoes of the bygone might of the Egyptian New Kingdom and Setite military campaigns in Asia Minor after the collapse of the Assyrian Empire in 612 BCE. See, I just said all this. All right, and Prophet Jeremiah would be during that time, and King Josiah would be during that time, and we need to study both of their history, but the book of Jeremiah gonna be our last act. That's gonna be our last act for the 99%, and that we went into Africa, meant to do the Egyptian religion. Uh, Man, I can read some of Josiah's history, and Prophet Jeremiah was the prophet during that time. During this time, 5 years. If Josiah come on at the age of 8, and then Jeremiah come in on his 13th year of rule, then he was 5. You know what I'm saying? He had 5 years without without Jeremiah. And then, he was still young and tender, so he gonna have some good guidance. All right, look. All right, Jeremiah. At the word of Jeremiah, the son of Halakah, one of the priests of Anath in the territory of Benjamin, the word of the Elohim came to him in the days of King Josiah, son of Amon of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign, and throughout the days of King Jehoiakim, Josiah of Judah, and until the end of the 13th year of Zedekiah, son of Josiah of Judah, when Jerusalem went into exile in the 5th month. The word of the Elohim came to me, and before I created you in the womb, I selected you. See, Almighty Yah know us, before we even born, because before Jeremiah was born, his spirit had to be somewhere, and our body is just like a vehicle. So the Creator knew him. Look, but before I created you in the womb, I selected you. Before you were born, I consecrated you. And then that's another thing too, because this is a trip now. The Creator done called King Josiah, before he was born. He called Cyrus before before he show up in Nebuchadnezzar. Now why come he never mentioned this New Testament character that they say is Yah's son? Now he mentioned all these other individuals by name hundreds of years before they was born, and they was born with that name and did exactly what the Creator said. Josiah, Cyrus, and Nebuchadnezzar. All them did what the Creator said, and he called all their names before they was even born. And Jeremiah too, look, he knew him before he was born. And I appointed you a prophet concerning the nations. And before you was born, I consecrated you. I appointed you a prophet concerning the nations. I replied, Elohim Yah, I don't know how to speak, for I am still a boy. And Elohim said to me, do not say I am still a boy, but go wherever I send you, and speak whatever I command you, and have no fear of them, for I am with you to deliver you, said the Elohim. So him talking to us and telling us all kind of stuff that we was gonna have to get off the land. The Israelites didn't want to hear that, and that'd be scary going to them Israelites back then, knowing how vicious they was, telling them that it wasn't finna work out. Man, they'll get you. Get you. Look, the Elohim put out his hand and touched my mouth. And the Elohim said to me, herewith I put my hands into your mouth. Mine. See, I appoint you this day over nations and kingdoms, to uproot and to pull down, to destroy and to overthrow, to build and to plant. The word of the Elohim came to me. What do you see, Jeremiah? I replied, I see a branch of an almond tree. The Elohim said to me, you have seen right, for I am watchful to bring my word to pass. And the word of the Elohim came to me a second time. What do you see? I replied, I see a steaming pot tipped away from the north. And the Elohim said to me, from the north shall disaster break loose upon all the inhabitants of the land, for I am summoning all the peoples of the kingdoms of the north. Man, that's going to be none other than these folks. None other than these folks right there. Right there. And they came. And they came to get us. They knocked Assyria loose first. And then they came and got us. And then they got the Egyptians. They got all of us. The Assyrians, us, and the Egyptians. We was partying too hard on them false gods and didn't put Yah worship uh, uh, in front. And them folks coming at us. All right. And the word of the Elohim came to me a second time. What do you see? I see a steaming pot tipped away from the north. And the Elohim said to me, from the north shall disaster break loose upon all the inhabitants of the land, for I am summoning all the peoples of the kingdoms of the north, declared the Elohim. They shall come and shall each set up a throne. And then that's what happened. And that's how all these folks get into our heritage. That's how all these peoples get into our heritage, because we wasn't trying to hold on to our heritage, and that was the green light for them. The prophet Jeremiah gave it to them. Look, they shall come and each shall set up a throne before the gates of Jerusalem, against its walls round about, and against all the towns of Judah. And I will argue my case against them for all their wickedness. They have forsaken me and sacrificed to other gods and worship the works of their hands. See, that's from fooling with them Egyptians and them Assyrians. So you grind up your loins and raise and speak to them. All that I command you, do not break down before them, lest I break you before them. I make you this day a fortified city, and iron pillar and bronze walls against the whole land, against Judah's kings and officers, and against its priests and its citizens. They will attack you, but they will not overcome you, for I am with you, declares the Elohim, to save you. And that's a trip. Now, we got to be some vicious people towards each other, that it take the Creator to save us from each other. Oh man, that's awful. But it ain't nothing for them other peoples to come whoop on us and destroy us real easy with us assisting in it. You know, that's how Israelite is. He gonna help you destroy his brother. Look, the word of the Elohim came to me, saying, go proclaim to Jerusalem, this said the Elohim, accounted to your favor, the devotion of your youth, your love as a bride, how you followed me in the wilderness, and in land I sown. Israel was holy to the Elohim, the first fruits of his harvest. All who ate of it were held guilty. Disaster befell them, declares the Elohim. Hear the word of the Elohim, O house of Jacob, every clan of the house of Israel. This said the Elohim. Now, if everybody was gone, why would Jeremiah give him a message? It wouldn't make no sense to be giving them a message that's for the people up close and around, then for some people way off somewhere. See, they ain't making no sense. Look, every clan of the house of Israel, this said the Elohim, what wrong did your father find in me, that they abandoned me and went after delusions and were deluded? They never asked themselves, where is the Elohim who brought us up from the land of Egypt, who led us through the wilderness, a land of desert and pits, a land of drought and darkness, a land no man had traversed, where no man being had dwelled. I brought you to this country of farmland to enjoy its fruits and its bounty, but you come and defiled my land. You made it my possessions abhorrent. The priests never asked themselves, where is the Elohim? The guardians of the teachers ignore me. The rulers rebelled against me, and the prophets prophesied by Baal and follow what can do no good. Man, it's like now today. You know what I'm saying? The Israelites that teach in these churches and so forth, even though they want to be teaching the truth, they teaching a doctrine that was developed after our fall. You know, I explain over and over how Judaism, Christianity, and Islam come off our broken covenant, off the history that I'm reading in the book of Jeremiah, and then those religions pop up after we was destroyed and kicked off the land, and the people had developed false doctrines off our history. False doctrines off our history created the world religions, the Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. But look, as you read the book of Jeremiah, And then the most horriblest thing when you get to is when you start getting to the 40s. When you start getting to the 30s and the 40s, but the 40s, man, especially 44, man, it tell you how we went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, and this is during the prophet Jeremiah time. He even came after us, and how we went into Africa, and these peoples in the book of Jeremiah never returned to the promised land after the exiles were released by the Persians, who defeated the Babylonians. The Babylonians defeated the Assyrians, and then the Persians defeated the Babylonians, and then we got a chance to come home from the Babylonian captivity. But the people that went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, the Israelites that went into Africa under them Egyptians that was under the control of those Assyrians had set them up. We went into Africa to be with them, and they would see that their land got destroyed, so it wouldn't really be no sense to come back to the promised land, in a sense, when you understand it, that when the Israelites went into Africa, the Assyrian Empire got destroyed. The northern kingdom, we was under attack by the Babylonians, the ones who had destroyed the Assyrians, and then they came into Egypt. We probably would thought that we couldn't come back ever to the promised land, and that we lost those lands when we went into Africa in the book of Jeremiah. It'll be this right here. Thereupon they answered Jeremiah, all the men who knew that their wives made offerings to other gods, and all the women present, a large gathering, and all the people who lived in Petros in the land of Egypt. We will not listen to you in the matter about which you speak to us in the name of the Lord. On the contrary, we will do everything that we have vowed, to make offerings to the Queen of Heaven and to pour out libations to her, as we used to do, we and our fathers, our kings, our officials in the towns of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem, for then we had plenty to eat. We were well off and suffering no misfortune. But ever since we stopped making offerings to the Queen of Heaven and pouring out libations to her, we have lacked everything and been consumed by the sword and by famine. And see, we was confused, man. Them folks destroyed us. We destroyed ourselves. We destroyed ourselves. We destroyed ourselves. But the book of Jeremiah, man, is gonna be our last act on the promised land for the 99%. I wanted to read a good percentage of the of it, but man, it's a long and vast story. I basically tell you about it. It was our last act on the promised land, and the Egyptians then killed King Josiah, this devil right here. This devil right here, his name is Necho. And he gonna be set up by them Assyrians. The Assyrians set him up. They got his image in New York. One day when I go to New York, I want to see this image in the Cleopatra needle. What they call the Cleopatra needle is a obelisk from the Egyptian city of On. And it was around when we was in bondage. When we was in bondage in Egypt, this thing right here was erected. It was erected, and it's in New York right now in Central Park. And they give it a false name so you don't get apprehensive. When the Creator said you'd be going back to Egypt in ships. Well, a lot of Egyptian monuments and everything. This whole country is based off Egyptian monuments and architectural styles and so forth. Yeah. All right, Israelites. I going a little more detail, but I just love reading the book of Jeremiah, man, because man, it show how crazy we was, man, before we went into Africa to do the Egyptian religion, even while we was in Africa. Look here, look. This is 42. Then all the army officers with Johanan, son of Ker, Jezaniah, look, them folks done chased us. Them folks done chased us off the land and came in and then burnt the temple up. You remember Jeremiah said everybody gonna set their throne up at the gate, meaning Jerusalem, where they was there knocking on the door. And we took off. Look. Then all the army officers, Johanan, the son of Ker, Jezaniah, son of Hoshea, all the rest of the people, great and small, approached the prophet Jeremiah and said, grant our plea and pray for us to the Elohim your Yah, for all this remain. For we remain but a few of many, as you can see, that the Elohim your Yah tell us where we should go and what we should do. The prophet Jeremiah answered them, agreed. I will pray to the Elohim your Yah as you request, and I will tell you whatever response the Elohim gives for you. I will withhold nothing from you. Thereupon they said to Jeremiah, let the Elohim be true and faithful witness against us. We swear that we will do exactly as the Elohim your Yah instructs us through you. See, that's going to doom us. That's going to put us on slave ships. That's going to put us on slave ships. That's going to make our whole life miserable. The whole house of Israel, all its descendants. That's going to make us, that's going to doom us and keep us. That sent us through the curses right there. That caused all the sufferings that we done suffered in America as a people. That caused our identity to be taken away. That caused all the sufferings that we have suffered as a people since we left the promised land. This right here. Thereupon they, they was playing with Jeremiah. We swear that we will do exactly as the Elohim your Yah instruct us through you, whether it is pleasant or unpleasant. We will obey the Elohim our Yah, to whom we send you, in order that it may go well with us when we obey the word of the Elohim. 10 days. After 10 days, Jeremiah come back and he told them to go back to the promised land. He told them to go back to the promised land. And then they said, nope. Look, but if you would say we would not stay in the land, this disobeying the Elohim your Yah, for you say, no, we will go to the land of Egypt, so that we may not see war or hear the sound of the trumpet, so that we may not hunger for bread, nor will we say, then hear the word of the Elohim, O remain of Judah. This is the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel. If you return your face towards Egypt and go and sojourn there, the sword that you fear shall follow you. You know what I'm saying? And Nebuchadnezzar sure came now. Nebuchadnezzar came to Egypt and we took off. We took off because, we constantly seeing the prophet's words come to pass. We done seen Nahum words come to pass about Assyria. We done seen all this destruction from all the prophets, and then the prophets say that the Babylonians is coming to Egypt to get us after we ran there. Man, that set us right into the position for the transatlantic slave trade. Put us real close to the coast. And here we is today. And it go back to what acts that we did in the book of Jeremiah sealed our fate. And we ain't recovered from it right now today. We still in bondage for the acts that was created or the acts that was done in the book of Jeremiah. That's why I say it's real important. Why is the book of Jeremiah so important to know? Is because the mentality that we was in then, we have now. The actions that happened then led to where we are, man, today. And if Israelites understand that and know that, boy, ooh-wee, they on the way. And then when Israelites read our history from other sources, keep in mind that other people been under the Israelite title for a long time. Is this their history or this our history? You see how I'm able to go connect world history to the Tanakh by using the Tanakh only. and how I'm able to reconstruct world history that affected us and surrounded us, and that was part of us. Easy to do, but you got to stay within the contents, man, of our history and timeline. And in the book of Jeremiah, gonna be the most important book because it's gonna be our last act on the promised land for the 99%. We didn't recover. We ain't recovered for what we did in the book of Jeremiah yet, and how we waiting on the Creator to redeem us and bring us home as the world events are leading to it today. Much love from the Israelite Brotherhood, and I pray that we all link up one day and we able to sit up under the same roof one day and give praise to the Creator.